I'm Thomas, 48 years old, a father, an ordinary man. Or so I thought. My life flowed smoothly, following the rules I set for myself, for my family. I worked hard, strived to be a good husband, a responsible father. I used to pride myself on understanding my son, Alex. I raised him, nurtured him, gave him a home. I believed I had done everything a father should do. But then there was a moment that tore apart all my beliefs and complacency. A fateful day, he looked straight into my eyes, his clear blue eyes that always held hidden depths, and his voice, a whisper yet firm, said, "Dad, I'm gay." And I said nothing. My world seemed to stop. I could only silently turn away, leaving him there in his most vulnerable moment. My wife Mary and I have 2 children. Our eldest daughter Sarah is energetic and outgoing, Mary's pride. And then there's Alex, our only son, 17 years old. Alex was always different. Even as a child, he was quiet, introverted. While other kids were excited about intense soccer matches or model car races, Alex found joy in old books, in colorful drawings, or quietly tending to small potted plants in his room. He was always gentle, composed, as if carrying a world within himself. I used to think it was a weakness. A son should be strong, active. I wanted him to play ball, to be interested in cars or traditionally manly adventures. But he wasn't, and I, in my short-sightedness, called it weird. I didn't understand, and sometimes I felt disappointed. Mary was different. She was a perceptive woman, always seeing what I overlooked. She understood Alex better than anyone. I remember once she looked at me with a steady gaze and said, "Thomas, maybe our son isn't like other kids. But he's still our son. He's still Alex." I merely nodded, a vacant nod, not truly absorbing her words. I thought I knew everything, but it turned out I knew nothing at all. It was a cold winter evening. Outside, the wind howled, and icy drizzle clung to the window panes. We were watching TV in the living room, the atmosphere as quiet as any other night. Suddenly, Alex walked in, his face pale, his hands trembling uncontrollably, and his eyes red as if he'd been crying. My heart suddenly pounded, a bad premonition washing over me. He stood before Mary and me, took a deep breath, as if summoning all the courage of his life to utter something incredibly important. "Dad, Mom, I've wanted to tell you this for a long time. I'm gay." Those words hit me like a lightning bolt. I froze. All sounds around me seemed to vanish, leaving only the echo of the last 2 words of Alex's sentence. No anger, no shouting, not a single word escaped my lips, only a terrifying silence. I couldn't accept it. Hundreds of frantic questions screamed in my head. Why my son? What did I do wrong? Did I fail to raise him well enough? Is this a mistake? An illness? These were foolish, prejudiced questions I didn't dare voice, but they haunted my mind. I stood up. I couldn't look Alex in the eyes. I couldn't. My whole body felt frozen, and I could only turn my back, walk into my bedroom, and slam the door shut. And I left him there, left my precious son there in tears, in utter solitude and despair. That was the worst moment of a father's life. From that evening on, the atmosphere in our home became suffocating. An invisible wall had risen between Alex and me. Mary tried her best to maintain peace. She talked to me, tried to reason, to advise. But I stubbornly avoided my son. I wouldn't look him in the eyes, didn't ask him about school or friends like before. The cheerful conversations at the dinner table were now replaced by heavy silence. A week passed, then 2 weeks. Each day, Alex grew quieter. The innocent smile on his face had vanished. The lively dinner conversations were gone. He was like a shadow in his own home. I saw the loneliness in his eyes, but I was too afraid to confront it, too preoccupied with my own prejudices and disappointments. Then one day, my heart stopped when Mary rushed into the room, delivering the news. Alex hadn't come home after school. It was already late. I called him, but no one answered. A barrage of worst-case scenarios flooded my mind. I felt panicked. I frantically drove around with no destination, only knowing I had to find my son. Finally, I found Alex. He was sitting alone on a park bench under the cold, pouring rain. His hair was matted to his forehead, his clothes soaked, his body huddled against the cold and sorrow. When he looked up, his eyes met mine. It was a gaze I will never forget for the rest of my life. Eyes that no longer held trust, no warmth, only deep hurt mixed with profound disappointment. "Dad, I just want you to see me for once. As I am, not what you want me to be." His voice was a whisper, lost in the wind and rain, but each word was like a knife piercing my heart. I froze, my heart felt squeezed. He didn't scream, didn't cry for mercy. He just quietly stood up and walked past me as if I were a stranger, an invisible man. At that moment, I felt like I was no longer a father. Not the father Alex once trusted, once was proud of. I was afraid. I was afraid I had lost my son forever. That fear was greater than any prejudice. I returned home, my body exhausted. That night, I couldn't sleep. I rummaged through everything, looking for every memory of Alex. Pictures of him when he was little, with a bright smile and clear eyes. Letters he wrote me on Father's Day, scribbled drawings, but full of affection. I saw the eyes of that child again, the child who once trusted me unconditionally, who believed I would protect him all his life. But now, I was the one who had caused the deepest wound in his heart. Tears streamed down my face, uncontrollable. Regret and love finally overcame all my fear and prejudice. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just keep drowning in regret and fear. I started to learn, not with judgment, but with curiosity and a desperate desire to understand my son. I read scientific articles about LGBTQ+ issues, about adolescent psychology. I watched interviews, listened to deeply moving stories from parents who also had gay children. I searched for support groups, online forums where people shared their experiences and their pain. And I realized something I had never dared to face before. Alex was not wrong. My son was not at fault. He was simply living authentically, true to the self that God had given him. The fault entirely was mine, a father who always boasted that he loved unconditionally, but wasn't brave enough, wasn't tolerant enough to accept such a simple truth. I had ignored my son's heart for the sake of ingrained societal prejudices in my mind. One afternoon, as the setting sun cast its light through the window, I walked to my son's door. My heart pounded, a mix of fear and hope. I knocked gently. "Alex, I'm sorry." I spoke, my voice choked. The door opened. Alex looked at me, his eyes still wary. I said nothing more, just walked in and sat down beside him. We sat together in silence, a silence different from the previous days. No longer a separating wall, but a space for understanding. Slowly, I reached out and took his cold hand. He trembled. A slight tremble, but then he squeezed my hand back. And then both of us started to cry. Tears of relief, of pain soothed, of forgiveness and unspoken love. That was the moment the invisible wall between us collapsed. From that day on, our lives began to change. I started learning how to be the father my son truly needed. Not the straight, traditional, or standard father according to old societal norms, but a father who knows how to love, how to accept, how to listen to his son unconditionally. We spent more time together. We watched movies, cooked meals, talked about everything, from small things to Alex's big dreams. Smiles returned to his face, and cheerful conversations once again filled our home. And then, last year, we went to Pride together for the first time. It was an unforgettable experience. I saw thousands of people just like Alex, strong, free, living authentically. I had my arm around my son, amidst a sea of colors and love, and I felt prouder than ever. Proud not because my son fit in, but because my son is truly himself, a courageous, authentic, and loving human being. Alex is now a strong, happy, and free young man. He no longer has to hide himself, no longer has to fear judgment. And that, for a father, is all I could ever wish for. I'm telling this story not to seek sympathy or to ask for forgiveness for my past mistakes, but to send a message to all the fathers, mothers, and parents out there who might be wrestling with the same doubts, the same prejudices I once had. Don't wait until you've lost your child. Don't wait until love is shattered beyond repair to realize your child doesn't need your permission to be themselves. They were born with that unique identity. They just need you to love them, unconditionally, without judgment, without barriers. They just need you to accept them, to protect them, and to be a safe haven for them. I am Thomas, and I once rejected my son, but now I know. True love doesn't choose gender. Love is acceptance. Love is accepting your child for all that they are. Listen to your child, open your heart, and love.